We're gonna invite another friend up to play some songs with us. We're gonna invite Richard Charney up, and Richard was my dad's eye doctor for many years. He also plays saxophone, and he's retired from his being an eye doctor, but now he has time to practice his music every day, and so he's going to come up and play some songs with us.
And I will keep this brief. Having spent a large part of the last 40 years listening to Richard's story, mostly every week to 2 weeks, I've heard them all at great length. But one of my favorites is one that involves him, not about somebody else. I was operating on Richard close to 40 years ago, and at that time when we did cataract surgery, we were doing it under general anesthesia. We put people to sleep. Not today, but back then that's what we did. And I will never forget Richard's reaction as he was being induced under general anesthesia. It took within about 10 seconds. They started the IV, they started the drip, and he looked up at the staff and he went, "Wow, this is just like the 60s. I knew then that we were going to be friends. The other thing, though, is that I feel that I've been a beneficiary and a first-hand witness to his skills as a promo guy. Because when I announced to him in somewhat late middle age that I was going to learn how to play the saxophone, he never made fun of me. And he was always very encouraging, and I realized that was very important. And part of his skill as a promo guy was based on his skill as a human being.
All right, well, there is a story on the website that Dale recorded and put together where my dad talks about meeting Miles Davis. He was in the jazz department in a local record store in Fresno, California, Sherman and Clay, and he got that gig because he just used to come in and want to get records, and he knew a lot about jazz, and they were a music store back then that sold everything. They sold records, they sold musical equipment, they sold keyboards, saxophones, everything, and they were like, we need to get it. We need to have somebody that knows something about selling jazz records because people are coming in and asking about it. So let's get that kid, Richard Totoian. So he started doing that, and then he also started emceeing some shows, or he had emceed shows at the high school, Roosevelt High, and there was a local promoter that saw him in action and liked his energy, and so they asked him to come and emcee some of the shows, the local jazz shows. And I didn't even know this. He told me like last year that at one point Duke Ellington's band was playing at Roosevelt High. They had a concert in town, and he was invited to go sit down in the practice room where the band was playing, and he's like, I can't believe it. I'm sitting next to the tenor sax player while they're rehearsing. And he used to get Downbeat magazines. He was a very, very big student of jazz. So anyway, he was doing this show, and Miles was in town. He was seating people, and the promoter came back to him and said, hey, Rich, Miles wants to meet you. And he's like, what are you talking about? Miles wants to meet me. He says, yeah, he wants to meet you. He goes, nah, you're full. That can't be true. We didn't bring his trumpet, but we have his trumpet back home that we got from the apartment. And he's like, I know everything about this guy. I can't go. He goes, what do you want me to do? Go back and tell Miles that you don't want to meet him? He goes, no. Okay, I'll go. So he goes and he he meets Miles, and Miles says, very nice to meet you, Richard. My name is Miles Dewey Davis. He says, yeah, I know all about you, blah, 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 blah. And he's telling him all the stories. He says, well, come on with me. I got to figure out what kind of shoes I'm going to wear. So they walk out to his car, and he opens up the trunk, and he says, and he pulls out these shoes, and he says, and he takes the shoes and he folds it in half, and my dad's like, wow, we only have Florsheim's here. He goes, these are Italian shoes. These cost whatever they did back then, whatever. So anyway, he ended up striking up a friendship with Miles, and you should go to the website to hear the story because it's too long for me to tell here. He struck up this friendship with him and ended up hanging out with him afterwards, and they went out to eat at a local diner. This was actually the last show that Coltrane played with him. This was the album, kind of blue album. And so it was Coltrane and Cannonball Adderley, Paul Chambers, and Jimmy Cobb, yeah. And so he told his buddy about it, his buddy Floyd, and he's like, you're full of it. You didn't meet Miles. He goes, why would I make this up? He invited me to go to L.A. They're playing a show in L.A., and we actually looked it up, and we figured out like the year and where the club was that he then went to play in L.A. It's crazy. But so in 1959, so he gets his buddy, and his buddy doesn't believe him, and he says, I'm going to drive you down there just to prove you wrong, that you don't know. He goes, come on, let's go. So they get in. He has a Volkswagen Beetle, which was a new thing in 1959, and they're driving, and they get down there, and they get down there, and they're late, but they find it, and they go up to the door, and he says to the doorman, he says, Rich Totoian +1, and the guy looks at it, he says, you're not on here. And he goes, no, Miles told me he was going to put me on the guest list. Richard Totoian goes, no, you're not on here. And so my dad looks down and says, there I am, right there. There's my name, Rich Totoian +1. All right. So he takes them. They start walking in. They're walking in. And the band is playing. They're in the middle of playing. They're like, and they walk in, and there's a table. It's kind of like in Goodfellas. There's a table right in front of the bandstand, like right here. And he sits down, and Floyd is like, oh, my God. And he says, Miles finishes the solo when he steps off the stage and takes his trumpet and puts it down on the table and goes, you're late, and he walks off. There's a lot more to the story after that, but you'll have to go to the website to see. But, so anyway, with all of that being said, we're we have to play some Miles because of that. So here we go. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Richard Charney on the saxophone right there.